Hello and welcome to Japanese craft beer reviews. Today we will begin looking at a series of beers, and those beers are not Japanese. They are craft, although some people are kind of feeling that at this point they are maybe becoming mainstream because they've tried too hard to be unusual, to be indie, to be everything that is not major brewery beer. We'll talk about that in a second, but this brewery is called BrewDog, and they have been around since 2007. They were founded by two guys in the UK. They are a British brewery. I'm sorry, a Scottish brewery, yes, British. And those two men are James Watt and Martin Dickey, and they founded their brewery in Scotland, and they immediately became known or famous, and I guess the word is notorious. Notoriety is probably the word to use for their approach to marketing. They immediately started out with some unusual names, things like this beer, Dead Pony Club, and they actually started marketing, crowdfunding in 2011 and selling shares called Equity for Punks. Their containers, they sold the beer in a dead squirrel, or actually a piece of taxidermy, but a squirrel. You can find this online, holding the bottle for an outrageous price. And they've had clashes with CAMRA, the British Association to promote real ale. They've had clashes with CAMRA about their attendance at CAMRA festivals, and in any case, they're pretty well known, and they do export to a lot of different countries. They produce a lot of beer these days. In 2012, they moved to a new brewery in a place called Ellon, E-L-L-O-N, in Scotland, and they have 5 breweries around the world now, and they've even expanded into hotels. They have 3 hotels. I think 2 of them are in Columbus, Ohio, in the U.S. And they have 78 bars around the world. So wherever you are in a maybe a major city around the world, there's a very good likelihood that you can find a BrewDog bar. In Asia, they opened one in Tokyo, one in Seoul, and one in Shanghai. And in Tokyo was pretty early, 2008, so right away. I'm sorry, no, that was a beer, never mind. I've never been to that one. They also got famous for trying to brew the strongest beer in the world, and originally that was called Tokyo. I think it was around 8%, and that was in 2008. And then 2009, they brewed a beer called Tactical Nuclear Penguin, kind of nonsense name, and then they started getting into a alcohol level ABV war with a brewery called Shoresbrau, and producing beers, and Shoresbrau produced one at 40%, and then this is a German brewery, so BrewDog attacked them with a beer called Sink the Bismarck, of course, which is a rallying cry from England, or from the UK during the war. Sink the Bismarck, and that was at 54%, I believe. And now some other brewery, I can't remember the name, has come up with something I think around 60%. So it's kind of silly, but it gets attention. It's in the news. I have to say that their beers, there's been some pushback from I think the craft beer scene for all this attention that they try to get with their weird names and all these stunts, actually you could call them. They make some wonderful limited beers. There was an event in Kyoto in 2013, about 7 years ago now, which I went to at one of the best craft beer bars at the time called Tiggs. It was run by an Irish man named Tig McLaughlin. And Neil Taylor, their representative, came and he brought a variety of beers. And then he had a selection of their limited beers like Abstract Series, Dog B, Coco Psycho, and so a variety of these more expensive, very limited beers. And those are absolutely wonderful, aged beers and really extreme beers. So in any case, we're going to look at a series of BrewDog beers. I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different beers from BrewDog that are available in Japan. And we're going to start right now. And here we are now with our 5th review for BrewDog. And the 5th beer we're looking at from BrewDog. And it is probably the most iconic one from the brewery. It's called Punk IPA. And it is, of course, an IPA. On the side, they say the beer that started it all. And what they mean, of course, is started it all for BrewDog, I think. And this beer is really the one that probably sent them off into the stratosphere of beer hype in the UK and then eventually around the world. And you think about just the simple language, Punk IPA. Basically, they're marketing an attitude towards beer or towards life, towards culture, a punk attitude, which was, very big back in the mid-late 70s in music, which is where the term came into cultural, with its current cultural meaning, kind of rebellion. So they call it a postmodern classic. And so it's probably the iconic beer for these guys, BrewDog. And on RateBeer, it has 6,231 separate ratings and 2,388 reviews, which means written with descriptions. And the average score is very high, 3.9 out of 5, 96 percentile for all beers on RateBeer, and 98 for its style, which is IPA. Untapped, we have, for unique reviews or ratings, we have 407,657, so we're getting up to 500,000 on that, and the average is a little bit lower, 3.75 out of 5. So this is 5.4%, and on RateBeer it's listed at 5.6. I don't know what the discrepancy. This may be a more modern iteration of the beer from when it was added on RateBeer at first. The malts include Maris Otter Extra Pale malt and Caramalt, and that's it. The hops are Autumnum, Amarillo, Cascade, Chinook, Nelson Sauvin, and Simcoe. So we've got a bunch of New World hops along with the Nelson, of course, from down under as well. I have rated this before 7 years ago, and I gave it 3.5. Recently, though, some people, I haven't had this for a long time, and some people were saying it's gone downhill. Let's find out, shall we? Again, 5.4% and 45 international bittering units. Are you a punk? You looking at me, punk? As Clint Eastwood said. Okay, it is a moderately hazy, sort of dark gold with quite a bit of carbonation floating up there. You can see, I think. And with less than half a finger of kind of frothy head. Let's try the aroma. Whew. Okay, it is very fruity, very citrusy. some kind of mixed stink, weedy, a little bit harsh on the nose. Yeah. Anyway, I get some grapefruit. Something like mild tobacco. The malt seems like cookies or cookie dough. Hops get a bit harsh in mid-palate, but it's okay. It's kind of malty in final form. There's something maybe herbal near the end. Like a shake of sage or marjoram or something like that in there. A bit light-bodied, but this is very tasty. So when this beer came out, people were very impressed with it. It was impressive. But, you know, our tastes change over time. I think this is absolutely true. So the beer you drank 10 years ago and were so knocked out by, you've had so many beers since then, and your palate has changed, your palate's developed. You go back to that beer and it doesn't quite measure up to the better beers you've had since then. So although it was great then, it's now not as great. Doesn't mean it's not great, but simply doesn't quite measure up as it used to do. So I think people are feeling that about BrewDog. This is still quite good. I mean, I would probably still give this a 3.5 out of 5. Not much higher, because I've had so many more great IPAs in the 7 intervening years since I had the last one. So, but you know, give this one a try. If there's any beer by BrewDog you want to try, you should try this one. It is probably their flagship beer, I think. So once again, it's called Punk IPA from BrewDog, and it is 5.4%, 45 international bittering units. Give it a go. Tell me what you think about it, you punk.